Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. Listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Me, 45, and my husband, 42, had been married for 16 years. Not the best marriage. I worked day shift, while he worked night shifts as a guard in a club. He cheated on me 2 times, but I always forgave him because it was in both cases a single encounter, and when I found out snooping through his phone, the text had stopped weeks before. He had the habit of not deleting any chat. I wasn't really active in the last year of our marriage because I wanted kids before, but he didn't. Stated that he still wanted to live child-free and have fun without the responsibilities that come with the child. After my 39th, my doctor confirmed that I couldn't have any more, so I became depressed and reduced our intimate life to one time every 2 months. 4 years ago, he cheated on me for the 3rd time, but this time it was different. He met this girl extremely younger than him. She was almost 19 at the time. He was 38, whom I'll call Lana, fake name. They've been together for 1 year. When Lana realized that he was lying, and the number he constantly received calls from wasn't actually his sister, like he said, but was me, his wife. So she memorized my number, and one day she called me and told me what was going on between them two. We also met 1 week after, and she showed me all the text between them as proof, stating that she didn't know he was married, and that she had immediately cut contact with him. Those messages were particularly hurtful to read, because unlike those with the other 2 women, this wasn't only physical, but strongly emotional too. He kept telling her how much he loved her, kept telling her that there was a ring coming for her, and the most devastating, apparently, he tried multiple times to get her pregnant, but she didn't want to be a mom at 19. After I confronted my husband with all the proof, he broke down and admitted the affair. But unlike the other 2 where he cried and begged, this time he seemed way less remorseful. I told him that I was willing to forgive him again, but this time we had to do couple counseling. 2 days after, he suddenly looks at me and tells me that he loves me, but loves her more and wants to separate and try to get her back since she had cut him out. At that point, I let it all out and said many bad things to him and laid on the floor crying and screaming in disbelief, asking myself how could I have wasted all these years and telling him I should have left him the first time I found out about his affair. Angry as I was, I called my family that lives in another country and told them everything. Word spread quickly, as the next day he received a call from his nana that made him come back to his senses. He came clean, apologized with me, and agreed to couple counseling. The next year seemed to go better, especially our intimate life. But I could still sense he wasn't fully happy, even though he told me the opposite. 1.5 years ago, he was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. I'm not going to spare all the details, but this has been the worst year of my life. Seeing him this weak and sick had me crushed. He died 1 month ago, and I'm devastated. Last week, there was a meeting with the notary and his family to discuss his will. He left me and his sisters everything. Then, my attorney pulled out a letter titled as "To the Love of My Life," so I asked the notary to hand it to me, as I guessed it was directed to me. But instead, the attorney told me that the letter was directed to Lana. My heart sank. I left the room and went to the bathroom to cry like a baby. After 10 minutes, I composed myself and got back into the room. I asked the attorney to give it to me so that I could call her and give it to her myself. But my husband had specifically requested the attorney to organize a meeting with Lana to make sure she received the letter, since he was sure that if I was the one who had to contact and give her the letter, she would have never received it. And he was right. The attorney had been able to contact her, and they're going to meet on Monday. I don't know what to do. I would like to ask to be present, but at the same time, I know that whatever is in that letter will hurt me deeply, and right now I'm already devastated. Well, I always say you are treated as you allow others to treat you, and that's exactly what OP did. She allowed her husband to hurt her, forgiving cheating 3 times? Well, that's way too much. Does she really think that after being forgiven 3 times for cheating, a man would magically stop? That just makes him rest assured that he will be forgiven 4th and 5th times. Well, I understand it was painful for OP to hear that the letter was addressed to the love of his life, but again, OP has herself to blame. She was the one who wanted to stay in this marriage. And why does she want to be there when the mistress reads the letter? Sounds like she likes being hurt. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. Careless Welder says, "This is your second chance to live the life you wanted. Get therapy and heal." My beating heartbeat says. Here's the thing. This man was a piece of crap who did not deserve you. He wanted to hurt you. He could have addressed the letter simply to her name, to Lana. He could have instructed the notary to not let you know about it. He knew the notary would read it just like it was written, and he knew that you would hear about it. After a year and a half of taking care of him, this is how he repaid you. He did it all on purpose. He was not a good man. And in the end, he chose to hurt you and showed you his true self. This is the legacy he chose to leave behind. He was a cheater and a predator. Edit. I'm slowly realizing that although he is wrong for what he did, I allowed him to continue to hurt me. There are a few things I'd like to specify. First, I live in Europe. We married in separation of assets. I use translator, which means that the separate finances we had before we married remained separate during our marriage. Second, some of you suggested he would have left her money. Even if he did, I highly doubt she would accept it. From what I read in their texts, he offered to pay for her on many occasions, for her studies and her car and something else. But she always refused, even though she wasn't rich. Third, I have strong religious beliefs. This is why I always forgave him and always wanted to work on our marriage. I made a promise that day and wanted to keep it. I'm definitely going to therapy in the next weeks, and as some of you suggested, I'll talk to the therapist about the letter and ask her if I should eventually contact Lana to receive it, so that I can have closure, or if it's better to only move on. Since last year, I've regularly given money to my best friend Tori to help pay for her mother Jean's hospital bills. Tori had been my best friend since middle school, and Jean is like a second mother to me. Their family's not been doing well financially for the past few years, after Tori's dad left them for another woman, and with Jean getting cancer. Jean couldn't work, and Tori could only get online jobs, so she could stay at the hospital with Jean since her brothers can't quit college to stay with Jean. So I helped by giving her money every month to help pay for Jean's bills and their family's other needs. I'm fortunately in a place where I can spare a considerable amount of money to give them, and I was happy to do it because I consider them to be my second family. I also asked help from my then boyfriend Rob, who's a doctor, for Jean to be treated in the hospital where he works, so that someone can always be there for them if they need anything. Well, last month, Rob talked to me and admitted that he had fallen in love with Tori after all the time they spent together in the hospital. He wanted to break up with me so he could pursue a relationship with her. I was stunned because I never saw this coming. There was never anything off about our relationship leading to this. I couldn't even say anything. I just told him to leave. When he was gone, I broke down. We had been together since he was in med school, and I've never imagined a future where he wasn't in my life. Tori called me afterwards. She said she didn't know that Rob had feelings for her until he talked to her after he talked to me. She said she shut him down and told him never to talk to her again, and that she never felt that way about him. I told Tori that I didn't think I can see or talk to her yet, and asked her not to contact me. A month on, I still don't think I can see or talk to her yet. Jean has also messaged me telling me she is sorry about everything, but I told her that I can't talk to them yet and to please give me more time. I can believe that Tori is telling the truth about not knowing how Rob felt about her, but just the mention of her name makes me relive a pain that I'm not even over yet. I usually transfer money to Tori's account every 15th of the month, but right now I think I can't do it. I know that my help means a lot, and I'm punishing Tori and Jean for something that Rob did. Sometimes I even ask if what Rob did was wrong. Since he and Tori are telling the truth, he did not cheat on me. He just fell in love with someone else and broke up with me. But even when I can find reason in those justifications, it doesn't change the fact that just thinking about Rob and Tori still hurts me. Well, OP doesn't have to send them money if she doesn't want to, obviously. But Tori did absolutely nothing wrong. She shut him down completely. I don't understand why OP wants to punish her and her sick mom for it, when if anything, OP should be feeling grateful for what an amazing friend she is to her. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Italian Mothman says, "You're the a-hole. Why are you punishing your friend for what your ex-boyfriend did? She shut him down. I would hold on to a friend like that if I were you. You're not the a-hole for not wanting to pay for her treatment. The way you are treating your best friend, however, will cause irreparable damage." Yeah No Duck says, "You're the a-hole. I'm a little bit hesitant to say this because you've been giving so much, and I don't think you should feel like you have to financially support them if you don't want to. But literally none of this is your friend's fault, and regardless of financial help, cutting her off is cruel. As well, they are probably relying on the financial help you've been giving, so you need to tell them if you're not giving anymore so they can work out alternatives." Eleanor Dash says, "Not the a-hole, but transfer the money. Jean is like a second mother to you, and the money means more to them than it does to you." Tori doesn't seem to have done anything to encourage Rob. If you don't transfer the money, you'll feel a little glee at your revenge now, but odds are decent that you will regret it later. My son's mom and I have been split up for 6 years. For the last 4 years, she has been dating this guy. Let's call him Kevin. I've met Kevin a handful of times, and honestly, he and my ex are perfect for each other. Kevin often tries to bond with my son and mentor him. My son doesn't like Kevin and refuses to hang out with him or have these in-depth conversations with him. Apparently, Kevin told my son that he is too old now to hang out with the friends he has had basically his entire life. He told my son that he needs to make friends with other boys and do more masculine things. My son told me what Kevin said and asked if he shouldn't be hanging out with his friends. I told my son that Kevin is dumb, and Kevin's opinion really doesn't matter and never will, so forget about it. My son felt a lot better after our talk, but this week is his mom's week, and apparently Kevin and my son got into an argument. My son called Kevin dumb, and when my ex admonished him, my son said he could say it because I said it. My ex called me and told me off for smack-talking Kevin and accused me of parental alienation. She said I should be encouraging Kevin and my son to get along, since Kevin will be a stepdad. I told my ex that Kevin isn't a parent, so it isn't parental alienation. I also reminded her that our son is old enough to decide if he wants to live with one of us full-time, so maybe she should tell her fiancé not to insult our kid. I pointed out that Kevin's intolerant BS was going to drive a wedge between them, not me calling a fish a fish. My ex said Kevin was trying to help our son, and I was just telling him what he wanted to hear, so he would like me more, and said that I'm the jerk, not Kevin. I talked to my best friend about this, and he said that Kevin is dumb, but I'm an a-hole for saying that to my son, because it caused a fight. Was I? Lady Loki says, "Under different circumstances, I'd say you're the a-hole. However, given Kevin's unchecked behavior regarding your son, not the a-hole, and your ex knows it. It's not about your son liking you more. That's already a damn given. It's about you having your son's back and supporting his choice of friends. Kevin has no business trying to parent your kid like this, and he can duck all the way off with that be more masculine crap. You need to have a long, and I mean a long talk with your ex about Kevin's behavior, and that if he doesn't back it off, you're going to strongly consider making a petition to change the custody order. Encourage them to get along. Ha! How about she encourage her boyfriend to accept her son for who he is and who he is friends with? MC Hans 84 says, "Kevin sounds like an absolute disgusting male chauvinist. Also, a key phrase to note here is, my son doesn't like Kevin. OP, your son has made his choice. He obviously can relate to you better than he can relate to Kevin. He feels that Kevin isn't helping him and is forcing his, Kevin's, taste onto him, your son. Therefore, you telling your son what you think about Kevin, which made him feel better, is just what any loving father would do. Therefore, you are not the a-hole. In addition to what I mentioned above, I would also say your son is a justified the a-hole, because while his calling Kevin dumb was indeed rude, perhaps it was the only way to put a permanent stop to Kevin's toxic nonsense." Every year, our friends go on a ski trip in January. It's something my husband and his friends were doing before I met him, but my friends and I have joined. My friend Samantha was engaged to my husband's cousin, Dante, but their engagement ended because he was caught cheating with a mutual friend, Julia. Samantha and a few friends have told me to uninvite them from the ski trip since my husband and I are the hosts this year. I've made it clear to Julia she's no longer welcome, but things are trickier with Dante. There's no way my husband is going to be okay with uninviting him, and knowing Dante, he'll show up regardless. I told my friends I can't uninvite him, but I offered to speak to my husband so he'll make sure Dante stays away from Samantha. They said that wasn't good enough, and I was clearly siding with Dante. Samantha is mad at me and keeps insisting my husband is just as bad as Dante if he doesn't agree to uninvite him. Am I the a-hole? SadEgg4593 says, "You're the a-hole. Why do you want to spend a trip with friends hanging out with a cheater who hurt one of said friends? Also, it says something about your husband that he doesn't care about the cheating enough to still want Dante there." JBH01 says, "Yes, you're the a-hole, because whether you and your husband like it or not, Dante and Julia have both put Samantha, and everyone else, in an awkward, unresolvable position where Samantha and Dante simply can no longer be in the same friendship group. Imagine for a second what it might be like if Samantha and Dante both went on the trip. It'd be colder inside the cabin than out on the slopes. Simply getting them to stay away from each other won't work. There's not enough distance in the world for that. Your proposed solution is unworkable and unreasonable. At the end of the day, it's Dante putting you all in this position. If you choose to ignore that and offer a solution that's plainly unpalatable to Samantha, then you're prioritizing Dante by definition. No Telling 411 says, "So this began as a trip your husband and his friends did. Then you and your friends joined. Sounds like it's your husband's trip, not yours. He and his friends get to decide on the guest list. Therefore, you and your friends are also guests on this trip, which means none of you have any say in who is not invited. If you and your friends are not comfortable with someone your husband wants to invite on this trip, maybe you should plan a trip of your own.